how Ismail was meant to be blessed, was meant to have a great nation come out from his progeny, as the biblical prophecies indicate, was sent to Mecca for a significant purpose. Like basically, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Ibrahim to take Hagar and Ismail and leave them in this wilderness alone, all of this is indicative of something huge that is going to happen. Because Allah is telling Ibrahim, take Hajar and her little boy, leave them in that particular area. Why that particular area? And leave them alone, your own wife and your own son. So a command from this coming from Allah to Ibrahim, which we don't argue about with the Christians and Jews. They know that this happened. So to be commanded to take his wife out to the wilderness and leave it with his firstborn son in that area is indicative of something big that is going to happen. And as we said, that it is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is the big thing that did happen. Ibn Abdullah, Ibn Abdul Muttalib, Ibn Hashim, Ibn Abdul Manaf, Ibn Qusay, Ibn Kilab, Murrah, Ka'b, Luay, Ghalib, Fahm. Keep on going like this. Go back, all the way until you get to Ismail alayhi salam. Yes.
I remember when we talked about Ismail.
But I wanted you also to keep in mind. I wanted you also to keep in mind that the details of this lineage do not have to be exact. This is not divine revealed. It's not divinely revealed. So basically, the one sure thing is that this is a tribe, a group of people that were in agreement that they are the descendants of Ismail. All of the tribes around them acknowledge and recognize that attribution or that lineage. Ibrahim and Ismail is not the pure.
Oh, okay.
So Jurhum is the pure Arab.
Okay.
Ibrahim and Ismail are not pure Arabs, are not Arabs to begin with.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. The idea here is that there are three different types of Arabs. There is the العرب العاربة والمستعربة والبائدة. العرب البائدة, the ancient extinct Arabs, قوم عاد and قوم ثمود, those are ancient extinct Arabs. بائدة, Badu.
No descendants.
Yeah, extinct. العرب العاربة are the pure Arabs, the original Arabs. العرب المستعربة are the Arabicized Arabs. Arabicized Arabs. The Prophet is Arabicized, not Arab.
Okay.
The Prophet is Arab. He's the best of all Arabs, but he's not, because in Islam it's not really by blood. It's not, and it's not such a big deal. Ethnicity and blood is not a big deal.
We don't go through
the Prophet was Arabicized. No, but if you don't go through the mother's side, the Prophet has no Arab blood, like real Arab blood, because if you don't go through the mother's side, and if you're talking only about his lineage going back to Ibrahim, Ibrahim had nothing to do with Arabs. Ibrahim is not Arab. Ibrahim was Babylonian. So he did not speak Arabic, and he was not Arab. So the Prophet is an Arabicized Arab, not a genuine, I don't want to say genuine Arab, because he is certainly the most genuine of all Arabs. But he's not pure breed Arab. He's not the ethnically or racially Arab.
Like the Bedouins? The pure Arabs?
Well, so the Ibrahim was Arab, so it is basically like someone from whichever country, like if you say that someone from India went and lived in Egypt, a few generations down the road, he would be Egyptian, right? His kids will be called Egyptian. But originally, they are not Egyptians. They have been Egyptianized. So that's the Prophet ﷺ. He's not from the Arabs who lived in Arabia forever, but he became Arabicized because Ismail moved there and intermingled with the Arabs of Jurhum, and his descendants married from Jurhum. So through maternal blood, they became more and more Arabicized, spoke the language. Certainly Ismail spoke Arabic.
So
Ismail for sure spoke Arabic.
I guess my question is not strictly Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because we know he's the descendant from Ismail, but like there's Jurhum settling in Mecca at the time of Ismail.
Jurhum was not in Mecca. Mecca was a wilderness.
Yeah, but after Hajar
Jurhum found that the birds are moving in the direction of Mecca, so they figured that there must be water that the birds are moving to, and followed the birds until they found Hagar or Hajar there with Ismail and that well. And they had those like good Arab qualities, the honor, So it's not like they snatched the well from her and they said to her that, can we live by you? And she welcomed that idea. Who would not welcome the idea of some people and security and stuff?
But my question is actually is Nur Quraysh, right? The Quraysh, at the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the people that are around him, like, I don't know, for example, Abu Sufyan, Abu Jahl, Khalid ibn Walid, like these Quraysh around Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam at that time, are they all descendants of Ismail?
Yes.
Okay.
Because Quraysh is all descendants of Ismail.
Okay.
So Khalid ibn al-Walid, Abu Jahl, Abu Lahab, everybody is descendants of Ismail, including Abu Jahl.
Okay.
Yeah. Because ancestry is not the idea in Islam, and we're talking about the lineage of the Prophet not because Islam puts an emphasis on ancestry and blood relations. It doesn't give you any. It is very inconsequential in the sight of God. Didn't the Prophet say this? Ya Fatima bint Muhammad, a'mali la ughni anki min Allahi shay'an. O Fatima bint Muhammad, do righteous works. I will not protect you from Allah. I have no power to avail you from the punishment of Allah. So even Fatima. But the importance of the lineage when it comes to the signs of the prophethood of Muhammad is all of those biblical prophecies about Ismail and the great nation that will come out from Ismail, and Hagar, and the story of Hagar, and the well that Allah, gushed forth for Hajar, and all of that. Who's the fulfillment of all of those prophecies? All of this in the making now. Who's coming from the descendants of Ismail that will be the fulfillment of all of those prophecies? It is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Next. Yes.
Do we know what her lineage is?
Hajar was Egyptian.
Egyptian? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So the honesty of the Prophet ﷺ. So I mentioned this example because there are tons of examples. When you talk about the honesty of the Prophet, he was called the honest, the trustworthy, al-Amin, even before al-Ba'sa. When Quraysh wanted to basically have someone mediate, and when they were building the Kaaba and they disagreed over which tribe will put, or clan will put al-Hajar al-Aswad in its place, and the Prophet showed up, they cheered over the fact that Allah sent them the trustworthy and honest one to judge between them. So they recognized them. Even when they were fighting with him, rejecting his message. What did the Prophet ﷺ leave Ali for when he left him in his bed? To return all of the trusts to the people. They trusted the Prophet ﷺ with their own money, their own precious items. They were leaving this stuff with the Prophet even while rejecting his messenger, his message, because they know that he is al-Amin. So when the sun eclipsed during the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the companions, and this happened on the day that Ibrahim died. Ibrahim, the son of the Prophet ﷺ, he died at the age of 2, and he was very dear to the Prophet. The Prophet felt extremely saddened by his departure, and the sun eclipsed. And then the Sahaba started to say that the sun had eclipsed because of the death of Ibrahim, out of sympathy for the Prophet ﷺ. And then the Prophet ﷺ said to them, the sun and the moon do not eclipse because of the death or life of someone. When you see the eclipse, pray and invoke Allah. Sahih al-Bukhari. إن الشمس والقمر آيتان من آيات الله لا يخسفان لموت أحد ولا حياته. So Shams and Qamar are the two signs of Allah. They do not eclipse because of the death of, an impostor prophet would have actually capitalized on the occasion. It is a perfect occasion, and so this is a perfect boost of credibility. If the sun is eclipsing on the day of his sadness and death of his son, and all of the Sahaba are on board that yes, look at this, but he's reminding them that these are signs. They follow the universal laws of Allah. They don't eclipse because someone died. Thomas Carlyle was a Scottish philosopher, a satirical writer, and historian. And he said, it's a great shame for anyone to listen to the accusation. Thomas Carlyle is a big figure, by the way, one of the big philosophers. So it is a great shame of anyone to listen to the accusation that Islam is a lie and Muhammad was a fabricator and a deceiver. We saw that he remained steadfast upon his principles with firm determination, kind and generous, compassionate, pious, virtuous, with real manhood, hard-working and sincere. Besides all these qualities, he was lenient with others, tolerant, kind, cheerful, praiseworthy, and perhaps he would joke and tease his companions. He was just, truthful, smart, pure, magnanimous, and present-minded. His face was radiant as if he had lights within him to illuminate the darkest of nights. He was a great man by nature who was not educated in a school nor nurtured by a teacher, as he was not in need of any of this. So this is the testimony of a non-Muslim, a philosopher who comes from a different culture, different era, different background, different religion, different anything. But to read the history of the Prophet ﷺ and not come up with those conclusions, your reading must have been biased. So why? Because when we talk about the person of the Prophet ﷺ, I want you to imagine one thing. I want you to imagine the personality of the worst of all liars. Who would be the worst of all liars? If someone lies against his co-worker, that's worse than lying against a strange person. And if someone lies against his father or his mother, that's worse against lying against the rest of the people. But if someone lies against Allah, the Creator, God, that's the worst of all liars. An impostor prophet would be the worst of all liars. In the history of humanity, have we looked at the personality of impostor prophets, and have we been able to sort of scan through their personalities and come up with certain characteristics? We have done this. We know lots of imposter prophets in the history of humanity. Had any one of them had virtuous, good qualities, great quality? No. So when a man of these qualities claims to be a prophet, would you think that he would be lying against God? Having lived for 40 years, known as the truthful and trustworthy by his people. So that is certainly one of the signs of the veracity of his prophethood. So more on the person of the Prophet ﷺ, and this is the guy that wrote The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. He was not particularly friendly to Islam, but this is what he had to say about the Prophet himself. The good sense of Muhammad despised the pomp, and here we're particularly having a focus on the austerity and asceticism of the Prophet, the zuhd of the Prophet ﷺ. Someone who is an imposter prophet, wouldn't he want to capitalize on this position and status and live a lavish, good life and enjoy? He was in control of all of Arabia before he died. Even when he was not, he had thousands of followers throughout his stay in Medina that revered him and would love to do anything in the world for him. Wouldn't he have been able to live a more so where is the picture? That's not showing very well, but the picture in the background is the depiction of the house of the Prophet, the room of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not really showing.
Two slides superposition. If you move to the next.
Huh?
Do you have two slides? This thing slides in, or is this one slide?
I assumed everybody's seen it already.
Oh yeah, but anyway, so the room of the Prophet ﷺ, it only had one little rug when he died and a little water skin, nothing else, and this rug was made out of straw mat, and was very, very small, that when Aisha and him was there, and then when he wanted to prostrate, he would need to tap Aisha's leg to pull her leg back so that he could prostrate. This is the place where the Prophet ﷺ lived, and the asceticism and austerity of the Prophet is not controversial. The good sense of Muhammad despised the pomp of royalty. The apostle of God submitted to the menial offices of the family. He kindled the fire, swept the floor, milked the ewes, and mended with his own hands his shoes and garments, disdaining the penance and merit of a hermit. So he was not acting like a hermit. He disdained the penance of the hermit. He did not really portray himself as a hermit, but while disdaining the penance and merit of a hermit, he observed without effort of vanity the abstemious diet of an Arab. So the Prophet was not inviting people into monkship, and he was not acting like one, seeking the recognition from the people, but he effortlessly, naturally, it flowed from him naturally. His zuhd was not, basically fake or acted. It was very natural. And Washington Irving, he's American, by the way, Washington Irving. A lot of people must know him. People who grew up here must know him. So he is an American author and biographer, historian, who's diplomat as well. So this is what he had to say about the Prophet ﷺ, and he wrote a whole book on the Prophet ﷺ. He was, and this was in 1783, before Islamophobia, I guess. He was born in 1783, died in 1859 for Islamophobia. He was sober and abstemious in his diet and a rigorous observer of fasts. He indulged in no magnificence of apparel, the ostentation of a petty mind, neither was his simplicity in dress affected, but a result of free disregard for distinction from so trivial a source. His military triumphs awakened no pride nor vainglory as they would have done had they been effected for selfish purposes. In the time of his greatest power, he maintained the same simplicity of manners and appearance as in the days of his adversity. So far from affecting a regal state, he was displeased if on entering a room any unusual testimonials of respect were shown to him, like when he forbade the Sahaba from standing up for him and things like that. Bisworth Smith died in 1908, said the head of states as well as the church, head of the state as well as the church. He was Caesar and Pope in one, but he was Pope without the Pope's pretensions, and Caesar without the legions of Caesar, without a standing army, without a bodyguard, without a police force, without a fixed revenue. If ever a man ruled by a right divine, it was Muhammad, for he had, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for he had all the powers without their supports. He cared not for the dressings of power. The simplicity of his private life was in keeping with his public life. So, like I said, the austerity and asceticism of the Prophet ﷺ is an indication that his ministry, his work, his mission, his fights, his battles were not for self-interest. Had they been for self-interest, he would have just lived a good life. What people call the good life. He lived the best of lives, but he would have lived what people consider to be the good life. His bravery still focused on the person of the Prophet ﷺ, because these particular qualities, we're not going to talk about all the virtues and good manners of the Prophet. We will talk about particular qualities that would stand as signs that this man was not working, that this man had complete certainty in his mission, and it was not a mission for self-interest. Because had it been for self-interest, like I said, he would have capitalized on it. Had he not had a complete certainty himself, because some people, some of the, like Gold's, German names are very difficult for me, Goldsieger, or whatever his name is in German. Whatever you say his name is in German. Huh? Goldsieger?
Gatziger. G-T-C-I-L-G-I.
Really? That is, a historian, Orientalist. Because I figured I learned this stuff in Arabic, and sometimes sometimes when you try to figure out the names how they're pronounced in German or in French, we massacre the name. Because in Arabic we really, and it's not just in Arabic. When Americans say Arabic names, they massacre them as well. Anyway. But I'm talking about the bravery here because if someone has no certainty in his own mission, he would be somewhat reluctant, hesitant. He would not really sacrifice his own safety for that, for his preaching, for the message, right? And I'm saying this particular German Orientalist because he felt that Muhammad cannot be a liar. He said that he didn't want to say that he was a prophet, but he felt he can't be a liar. So he felt that he was having sort of visions, sort of like internal stuff, like going through his mind, making him believe himself that he was a prophet. But if someone is sort of having those visions, internal psychological stuff, making you believe that you are a prophet, you will still be reluctant and hesitant, and you will not really sacrifice yourself for that, for those visions. The bravery of the Prophet ﷺ was matchless. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him as in Surah Al-Ma'idah, أيها الرسول بلغ ما أنزل إليك من ربك وإن لم تفعل فما بلغت رسالته والله يعصمك من الناس. When this was revealed, والله يعصمك من الناس, the Prophet ordered that he would have no bodyguards, no one to protect him, no one to watch out for him, because Allah said to him, and Allah will protect you from the people. And that's it. There used to be a bodyguard volunteering to protect the Prophet ﷺ, and he dismissed them. He dismissed them because when this was revealed, So if he really if he's making this up, would he dismiss the bodyguards? And then the multitudes of reports from the Sahaba radwanullahi alayhim that he was never one of the people that fled from any battlefield, or one of the people that retreated, or he was always in the front. He was the Prophet. It would have made perfect sense that he stayed in the back, so that because if the Prophet is killed, everything's gone. But to be at the front of every battle, every expedition that they went on, to be in the center front, where the Sahaba used to say, where Ali radiallahu anhu, Ali is Ali, you know how brave Ali was. When Ali says, كان إذا حمي وطيس اتقى أحدنا بظهر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. When war became fierce, we used to hide behind the back of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The likes of Ali and the bravest of the Sahaba, they would take the back of the Prophet as a shield, because he was right there in the middle, in the center and the front. Even sometimes when they were always afraid of the Romans coming to attack them. So one day they heard noise in Medina, and the Sahaba came out, like loud noise was made in the outskirts of Medina, and the Sahaba came out to check it out, and they only found that the Prophet is on his way back to assure them that there is no problem, there is nothing. So he went out by himself to check out the noise, and he went out first, and so quickly that he was on his way back when the Sahaba were still making it out. Then the perseverance also. Perseverance. Bravery is different from perseverance. Perseverance is when you're consistent. You have a great deal of endurance. Bravery is when you show courage in one situation, at a particular conjunction. But perseverance, endurance is when you're steadfast and consistent all the time, taking all the pressure, withstanding all the pressure, and the pressure was enormous. The pressure against the Prophet ﷺ was really enormous, but he endured through it all the way. So the embargo in the ravine of Abu Talib, the Sha'b of Abu Talib, or ravine of Abu Talib, which is a little area between mountains where they were locked in, the Prophet and his family members and his followers. This embargo carried on for 3 years. It was extremely tough, with extremely debilitating, to the point where Abdullah ibn Mas'ud tells us that when you peed and you heard something underneath, that he one time peed and he heard something making like a sort of crunchy sound, whatever. And then he took it and he found it to be a piece of skin from a camel's hide. And he took it and he cleaned it and he sort of burnt it and he ate it. Because at the end of the day it will have some nutrition. This is how bad it has gotten for them. And he withstood all of this pressure. Yes?
It's also important that she really never recovered from this
Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
diet, she was out of the strength, and it was ended, she didn't last.
Absolutely. One of the consequences of the embargo on the Shab is that Khadija never recovered from this. She has become debilitated by it to the point where in the 10th year she could not, she died. She just could not recover. And I'm just, so the perseverance of the Prophet, all of you will know more. I'm just mentioning those two examples, just like as examples. The Shab, his visit to At-Ta'if, when he visited At-Ta'if, so when he visited At-Ta'if and then he was rejected by the people of At-Ta'if, and they stoned him, they threw rocks at him, and they ordered their kids to go out and run behind the Prophet ﷺ, throwing rocks at him. The sort of humiliating treatment that he suffered at Ta'if and all of this, and he would refuse that the punishment. He would refuse not only in Ta'if but also in Mecca. He would refuse that they would be punished, hoping that something good would come out of their descendants or their progeny, people that would worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and have tawheed and iman would come out of the progeny of those people. So not only that he endured the suffering and endured the mistreatment by the kuffar, but he was also very tolerant and compassionate towards them, wishing for their conversion, wishing for their well-being, or at least he hoped that their progeny, something good would come out of their progeny, if not from them. And the optimism, all of this shows you his certainty in the message, that he was certain of the truthfulness of the message that he is preaching. Optimism of the Prophet ﷺ was remarkable. At all times, he did not ever lose hope in Nasrullah and Ta'eedullah. The Prophet was mentioned to have had, early on in the message, when al-Fatra, when the period, the pause of the revelation happened, the Prophet was in much turmoil, which shows you that all of the history of the Prophet has been transmitted to us with great transparency. And it shows you that the Prophet never hid things from us. He actually told us that he was in great turmoil when the pause took place, and when Jibreel came first, and then there was a pause. The scholars disagree over the period of the pause, but likely it was not, as some people suggested, several years, like 3 years or several months or anything. It was a much shorter period, but the Prophet was in turmoil to the point of even having some suicidal ideation. And he told us this, but keep in mind that he would be walking, near the cliff of the mountain, and then he would have those impulses of throwing himself off the cliff. But he never did this, and he never acted upon this. So there is a difference between a khatira and an actual thought. Khatira is an impulse that basically this describes the great turmoil and sadness that he was suffering from. Now he received now Jibreel came to him, told him that he was a prophet, and then Jibreel quit coming to him. And this was basically to make him long for it, to make him more keen, eager, longing for the message, so that he would take it with strength. So Allah showed him a little bit of it, and then it paused, so that he becomes keener, more eager, and more longing for the coming of Jibreel. Like, never take it for granted. This is a huge thing. To send Jibreel down to you is a huge thing. Don't take it for granted. And the Prophet experienced that lapse or that pause of the revelation to be even keener. But he told us of the great turmoil. But afterwards, when Jibreel became consistent in his visits to the Prophet ﷺ, it's time to stop. Oh.